Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Becker, and I've been living and working in Guatemala for the past year and a half. And before I talk about my time in Guatemala, I want to talk about the one experience that I had, which was my exposure to what are savings groups. And I'll go into more detail of what actually is a savings group. But when I was graduating in 2012, I studied here at the University of New Hampshire and graduated with a degree in economics and Spanish, and had the opportunity to participate in the Small Microenterprise and Development Program, which was then the Carsey Institute, now the Carsey School of Public Policy. And while there, I got to go and visit a savings group. I took the savings group course there and went into a rural village in Ghana and saw a savings group in action. And that group had saved over $7,000 over the course of the year. And as I was watching that group, watching the actions, I really saw this strong bond and sense of solidarity that was created by the savings group. And that really struck me and stuck with me when I saw the power of savings groups to be able to not only help improve the management of finances, but create community as well. So I've been down in Guatemala. For those of you who don't know, it's located in Central America, just south of Mexico there. It's a developing country. It ranks 131st out of the 187 countries that are ranked on the United Nations Human Development Index. The Human Development Index is a measure of the level of development, but not only economic. It measures income inequality, healthcare, education, lots of different factors that should be taken into consideration when measuring development. It is definitely a poor country. It has a GDP per capita of $3,478. But the more important number here is the score on the Gini coefficient, which ranks the level of income inequality in a country. And so even though it's already poor with $3,478, that $3,478 is not experienced by a large portion of the population. And in Guatemala, there's a big presence of indigenous population there, and that's primarily who I've been working with. As you saw here in the beginning, that's an indigenous community. That's the first savings group that I started down there. So I've been working in a community called Santa Lucia, and it accurately reflects what's going on in Guatemala and these statistics here. So as I've been down there, before I joined the master's program, I was already working on this project, but it was just me. I had really no guidance structure. I didn't know exactly how to go about implementing a savings group project with my organization, Soluciones Comunitarias. And then it was March. I got down there in October, and then March, UC Terrell sent me an email. She's like, hey, you should use your project for the master's program that we have here. And I was like, wow, perfect. Hopefully with that master's program, I can get some guidance and structure that I'd been lacking doing the project by myself. And so what I learned throughout this process is that it's not just going and finding a group and saying, hey, you guys should save. No? Okay. All right, you guys should save. No? Okay. It's really doing the due diligence. It's engaging the community and doing these pre-project implementation. I had already been doing literature review. Luckily, in the savings group community, everybody likes to share what's been going on, the learnings. There's lots of books and literature out there. But then I was also able to learn how to do focus group discussions and key informant interviews, engaging with the women, and really asking them questions. What is going on in this community? What do you think about savings? Is that something that you're able to do? If you were to save, how would you do it? Asking these questions to really figure out what they saw as the problem, and if it was a problem or not. So through that process, what did I learn? That everyone has sick piggy banks. No, it's there's a lack of savings practices and a lack of access to reliable credit. So in this community, I've been working with this called the Women's Municipality Office, and there's groups of women, and each group has a women's leader and organizing the groups there. I'll talk more about the process in a second, but what I learned through that process of focus group discussions and key informant interviews was that the women want to save. They recognize that savings is an important financial tool, but they don't have the access to a reliable place to save. The lack of financial institutions is a big issue there. Also, they have this inability to invest in income-generating activities. They don't have the capital up front to be able to invest in. One group had community garden, and with that community garden, they wanted to start selling the pickled goods, pickled vegetables, chiles, jams and jellies that they could make from the fruits and vegetables from their garden, but they didn't have the money to be able to really invest and turn that into a store. And also there's a high risk of financial hardship. One woman told me that one time her child got sick and she had to pay the doctor's fee, but she didn't have any savings. She had no way to be able to pay that doctor's fee, and she ended up having to take out a loan from a local moneylender and pay very high interest rates. Also, in Guatemala, there's just this day-to-day mentality that is experienced there. It's very, how much money do I have today? What do I have to purchase today? And there's not a practice of forward-thinking, future-thinking, planning finances. There's also a social pressure to demonstrate wealth. Lots of the women had new smartphones and iPhones, and they were struggling to feed their children, and that didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. But there's just this social pressure to be like, hey, look, I can buy this smartphone. And yeah, there's also the lack of financial institutions. So, what is a possible solution? Savings groups. A savings groups, for those of you who don't know, has many different aspects that address those problems. It's groups of women or men, but I primarily focused on the indigenous women population. They come together with friends and family members. They save their money in a group, have regular meetings where they continue saving. Then, from that savings, they can lend to each other for purchasing jars and things to start that store, to be able to create that income-generating activity. The groups are self-selected and self-managed. So my role as a facilitator is to explain to them, in general, this is an outline of how a savings group works, but within that, you're going to decide the rules. One of those rules that they decide is the interest rate. So this creates that affordable access to credit. And as they're lending to each other, they're paying back those loans. The interest earned on those loans is earned on the savings of the group. Just like it was any bank, except the women are the bank. And so instead of borrowing from the moneylender, paying that interest to that moneylender, they're paying the interest back into their own group. Then on the other side, as I said in the beginning, these groups create solidarity, create that sense of community. It tackles that issue of the social pressure to demonstrate wealth. It turns that into positive peer pressure to be able to practice good financial habits. You show up at a meeting, you see other women in a very similar situation to you, that they're able to put in that 100 quetzales, maybe it's $12 a month that they're saving, and it motivates you as another member to be able to save as well. It's like, wow, if she can do it, I can do it too. And it's also an opportunity to come together and discuss the sharing of ideas, discuss maybe that opportunity to be able to invest in that income generating opportunity. So, yeah, the savings groups, we have these desired outcomes that we're trying to realize from starting these savings groups, addressing those problems, trying to create that ability to be able to invest in those asset building opportunities, an increase in savings practices, an increased social pressure to save, and the long-term outcome, hopefully all of those will turn into increased financial stability and decreased financial uncertainty. But all of this is a process. Logically, I can sit down and understand, okay, yeah, savings groups should lead to these desired outcomes. But now I have to go and explain to the women that process. So like I said, I've been working with the Women's Municipality Office, and they're in Santa Lucia. They already have a system, it's government run, where they have certain workshops where it's, you know, today we're going to learn sustainable agriculture practices, but then in the next workshop 2 weeks later, they learn how to make soap as a potential income generating activity, and maybe the next one is making baskets. And so there's these individual workshops that they're learning from. So they have that habit already of coming to workshops, but there's not that habit of referring back to a previous workshop. You know, so you show up and you learn about making soap, and then you go to the next one, it's making baskets, and you never refer to making soap again. But meanwhile, I'm trying to start this process where the first meeting is, let's just talk about what's your current situation? How are you managing your finances? How are you, discussing? It's an introductory financial workshop is that first meeting that I have with them, and that's what I'm giving right here, is discussing where's your money coming from and where's it going? What are the household cash flows? Then looking at expenses, trying to figure out where are you spending your money? How could you potentially reduce that spending? Then a reduction in spending, that's more quetzales, more opportunity to be able to spend money elsewhere. Or you could save, but why save? And then we discuss the importance of savings, discuss talking about what are your long-term goals? What are you trying to achieve in your lives? What do you want to do? Why are you doing these things that you're doing? Having those conversations and really trying to frame how savings could benefit their lives. Then at the end, we talk about that opportunity of creating a savings group. And so then that's just the first meeting. Then we go into the second meeting where we go into more detail of, all right, this is what a savings group is. How is this going to work for you? Do you have 10 to 30 members that can come together that you trust, that you are able to save in a group, loan to each other, and really discuss the details of how that savings group works? So one of my main challenges was lack of attendance at these meetings, in the sense that, maybe 10 of the 20 women would show up at the first meeting, and then the other 10 would show up at the second meeting, because they don't have that habit of, oh, that first meeting now leads into the second meeting, which leads into the third meeting. So that was one of the biggest challenges that I faced. Another challenge was the coordinator of the Women's Municipality Office, David. He was a very busy man. He's working with over 25 groups of women, with 20 women in each group. And so then I come in and say, hey, can you help me set up this meeting with X group? And he said, yeah. But then he would put it off. There's also this culture of mañana down in Guatemala. Everything's going to happen tomorrow. And so for a while, I was trying to set up these meetings, trying to do these activities, trying to do these trainings, and wasn't able to have David set up these meetings for me. So finally, I was like, hey, can I just get the contact information of the woman leader? And it'll help you reduce your time. You can focus on the other groups, and I can contact directly that woman leader and set up the meeting. And that helped me really start to get the ball rolling and contacting the women and setting up those meetings. But still, that the lack of attendance and the lack of attending all of the meetings was one of my main challenges. Also, another thing that I learned in this process was through the master's program, really engaging the stakeholders and really making sure that this is something that they want, that they see as a need. And so it's really starting from where the stakeholders are at. It's showing up and having that conversation. Before I started this master's program, and when I was working down there and trying to figure out the best way to go about doing this, I was just identifying a good potential group and saying, hey, you guys look like could be a good potential savings group. This is what a savings group is. Do you want to do it? And another challenge that I faced was Guatemalans are way too polite. In the meeting, they'll never tell you to your face, no, that doesn't work for me. No, I don't have that. I don't think that's a good idea. And so we would finally get to the point of, okay, they'd say, yeah, that sounds great. Sure, we want to do that. And then we'd get to the point, all right, let's actually start the savings group. Let's sign up and start the trainings. And they'd be like, oh, I don't have enough time. Or they wouldn't even show up to the meeting for fear of disappointing me, which was frustrating as well. But it is a process, and continuing to set up the meetings and keep learning and adapting. And so one of the main changes I did was, instead of just identifying a group and saying you should save, was starting with that financial literacy workshop, talking about your household income. Where's your money coming from? Where is it going? Talking about the expenses, and really getting into the why save in the first place. And also being very clear from the start and painting the big picture, really explaining that this is a big process. This isn't just one, let's learn how to make soap, then let's learn how to make baskets. It's no, we're going to first learn about how to better manage your finances, then we'll talk about ways to put that into practice, how a savings group can benefit you, really discuss the details of how you can form a savings group, what that's going to look like, and then you're going to start this savings group and you're going to be saving throughout the course of the year. And me and Soluciones Comunitarias, we're going to continue to support you, and we're going to revisit, and we're going to make sure that everything's working fine, and that it is this whole long overarching process with the purpose of helping improve your situations, giving you that access to reliable credit, giving you a safe place to save your money, not just in your sick piggy bank underneath the bed. So all of those learnings moving forward, I'm going back to Guatemala at the end of the month, and I'm transitioning into a new community. Since I've been down there, I've been able to start 4 savings groups. Unfortunately, not in that community of Santa Lucia, but you can't win them all, right? And so It has been working elsewhere. There's 4 groups that are up and running, doing really well. And so I'm transitioning into a new community where I'll be doing more of a focus and really emphasizing this point, making it relevant. These women are taking time out of their day to come and listen to me. And so I'm identifying women's weaving cooperatives as a good potential group for not only savings groups, for an entire financial literacy workshop, saying, hey, how are you managing your finances? How can this really help you as an Indigenous woman weaver improve your business and give you access to a way to improve your income generating activity? Thank you very much.